Wait, it's not started yet. Wait a
It's on.
second.
All right.
So today we have a special guest, Grigory Rasputin. I don't know his exact name and how the fuck it is pronounced, but it is honor to have him here. Yeah.
His name is Elric Ragoczy. Greetings from the night side. This is Legion of Lilith. We bring you occult information highlighting our honored guests. Favor the night side, but are not limited to dogmatic. That being said, myself or Demetrius and our guests will not be held responsible for any misinterpretation of any information presented. It's a responsibility of the listener. So, Elric, it's fucking awesome having you on, brother. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling fine, man. Thanks for having me. Much love to you guys.
Love to you, my friend. Demetrius, how you feeling today, brother?
I am feeling awesome. Like I did some crazy experiments with names and with Azazel. And for you, Eric, because I don't know did Joseph and me as a fucker, we didn't tell you this, but I think we should. So there is a way of using the names of God in the Bible in a way which doesn't offend demons and which actually tap into the essence of the Black Sun. So you can conjure them without offending them in an extremely powerful way. And the entire point of this method is to realize that the names of God in the Bible do not refer to the any entity specifically. The God Moses saw in his vision of the burning bush isn't an entity, isn't a spirit. It's a way of approaching source energy, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you are whose God names, you are not tapping into any spirit. You are moving the source energy according to the particular patterns. And there is a way of utilizing those names, which I will not say here publicly because Spirit started pissing on me, but I said this in previous interviews to use those names to call a demonic to generate the pure black light. And this is really powerful. So I think you are an awesome motherfucker. And can you elaborate a little bit more about your magical beginnings? Because you said something in previous interview with previous fuckers, but they kind of censored you. And it is our duty here as hosts to allow you to speak whatever you want to speak, mate. So, yeah.
Well, I started magic before I even knew it. As a child, I found that my emotions would reflect in the weather patterns. Um, I would get angry or sad, and it would blast out of me like I could feel it as if it were just a shockwave. And sometimes within hours, we would have storms hit. Sometimes it would be like fierce downpouring rain. Other times it'd be severe storms with tornadic supercells, not too far from me, where I grew up in central Ohio. And, tornadoes have always been a big part of my life. Being part of the Midwest, that's just something we have. But at the same time, I really encompass the tornado. Me as a person, as a being, is very much like a tornado. Um, I move about. I can be silent, and I can be quite destructive. At the same time, I can be quite beautiful in motion. Um, so I really, reflected that, and I learned more how to control that shockwave that came out of me. And as I became a teenager, I had a few chance meetings with some pretty famous people. One of them being the lead singer of a band that really spoke to me. And I got introduced to magic community. Like I didn't realize that there were other people out there like myself. And I started early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, maybe. Might even been the year 2000. It's been a long time, but I started kind of getting in with Wiccans, and we laugh about it now, but back then, they were about where we are now. And just kind of started from there, learning how to harness everything, how to focus my intent instead of just throwing it out like a madman. And learning how to focus, learning how to channel the energies, how to really pull and push. And then shortly after, it only lasted about a year, that I really fell out of that circle because it was too love, too light. And, you know, I'm all about that, but I understand that there's darkness and there's hatred. And it's all something that we have to encapsulate and encompass and integrate in ourselves. And I picked up, you know, the Satanic Bible, read through that. At first, I thought it was just mind-blowingly amazing until about the third time I read it. And then I realized it was not much more than a marketing scheme. Really good one. I'll give them credit for that. Pretty fucking edgy if you're a teenager. But past that, it's like I really just kind of didn't associate. Like I just felt like there wasn't anything, you know. Nobody seemed to really understand. They only understood pieces of the pie. They didn't understand the whole pie. So I started going through looking at the traditional works, and 2003, I took my own life by my own hand. And as I did, I went to what I call the void. And in the void, it's the coldest, loneliest, and darkest place you could ever go, or you could ever imagine. If you've never been there, you can't fathom what it's like. Like, I've tried to explain it to people, they don't get it. They have no point of reference, you know. But while I was there, two figures pulled me out of it and told me that I had made a deal long, long ago, that I couldn't go out like this. I had a part in something way larger than I was aware of, and that I needed to be here now to do it, to complete it, or at least keep it moving. And they brought me back to life, and they etched an image into my mind. Could never get it out of my head. I drew it hundreds, if not thousands of times, trying to figure out what it was, and finally figured it out. It was the sigil of Lucifer. Once I figured it out, started digging. I mean, you come across, and keep in mind, this is early to mid 2000s. It took me probably months, if not a year or more, to figure it out, because we didn't have Google as we do now. You know, we had Ask Jeeves, we had Yahoo. You know, just coming across this was, you know, quite a significant find at that time. So I started digging through, and I come across the Ars Goetia. And as I was scrolling, you know, flipping through the pages, come across this one spirit that said that they were loyal to the most loyal to Lucifer, King Paimon. So I was like, well, I'm going to start with this guy. He's got to know what's up. He's loyal to Lucifer, and that's the image that's, you know, burned into my mind. He's got to know some answers. So I conjured him, evoked him. He came, physical manifestation. And that's where I started. That was 2006. Might have been 2004. I'd have to go back through my notes. I've still yet to dig through that. I've kind of been doing a lot of stuff in probably the last year and a half. But it may have even been 2004 when I really think about it, because the place I remember doing it, I lived there in 2004, but not 2006. So it may have been 04. So if that's the case, that means 17 years that I've been working on the infernal current.
It's quite ironic that a lot of magicians that are drawn to this stuff have a lot in common as far as dying or having near-death experiences, and a pattern with specific spirits. I myself started with Lucifer and King Paimon. So these synchronicities, they're not just happenstance. There's a certain bloodline or agreement or covenant that you made many eons or lifetimes ago, and certain information is finding you in this incarnation. Certain people are being introduced to you in this incarnation for a specific purpose. Demetrius has similar stories. Demetrius, you want to talk about that?
Like I already talked about it on a channel, so I don't want to waste. Like, you can check video on my channel how King Paimon saved my life and watch it. Like, but regarding specifically you, like Eric Ragoczy, is it like your surname? I don't know. I don't like be offended, brother. I simply have problems pronouncing. So
No,
if
it's fine.
you really, so you are kind of really controversial motherfucker. You have lots of badass knowledge. I resonate with a lot of things you said publicly in regard to spirits and how they form and how they are not any stable forms. They are actually energies and they shift constantly and they take different forms and they are pretty chaotic and primordial. Tell us like some of the which you can share publicly with the audience regarding the sorcery and the methods you practice because I think you have a lot to say. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, for me, don't I don't contain it. I've come across a lot of people that think it has to be one way. It's got to be like it is in the Ars Goetia, or it's got to be like this or that, and that's not the case. I mean, even lately, like I said, privately to you guys, it's been a very dark time for me for the past month and a half ish, a little bit longer maybe. I mean, this year has been quite an upheaval. 2020, I was near death. 2021, it happened again. So, recently I've began conversations with El Shaddai. Some people call him God. I will sit and I will have conversations with him, and people are like, "Oh, but he's the enemy." No, he's not the enemy. None of them are the enemy. The only enemy is right here. That's the biggest enemy to all of us is ourselves, because there's shadow parts of us that we bury, we ignore, we hide from, we hide within, and magically that doesn't work. That's going to manifest. These people that run around and say that it's one way or another, they channel dysnosis or whatever. That's great. That's what you heard. It's like a game of telephone. You can tell it to the world. It's not going to set with everybody. It's not going to resonate. My workings with Shimyaza in 2008, I could sit here and outline exactly how I did it, and 100 people watching this could go and replicate it. Maybe 50 will get the same result. Maybe 5. I don't know, because it's the way I did it. The way I did it was how I was instructed to do it. That's how I go. I call it, at this point, I call it the primordial path. I just go by what I see, what I hear, and what's told to me will work. Um, you guys have mentioned a few things to me in private about some of the workings. I've yet to try it because I've been so busy with everything, working and everything. But I have an idea of it. I'm probably going to refine a little bit of it for my personal setup, but that's the key to it. You guys know that. I know that. We know that. Like somebody asked me about working with angels. I'm not particularly fond of them. I've got a history with them, but as I've come to learn, despite all my efforts to reject them, they've still been around. Um, some of them we just don't see eye to eye. We have different methods. That's fine. Practitioners that work with angels, that's cool. I've got a handful of psychics that I am well acquainted with that work solely with angels. It's cool. I'm not opposed to any of it. Elementals, angels, demons. The only thing I oppose is archons, because they themselves only seek control. I'm not about control. I'm not going to play into the small world view of worship and submission. That's why I've deemed my group Order of Defiant Darkness, because we are defiant. We are the darkness that will not be made to kneel, made to bow down.
The master slave dynamic.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as you, that's a specific phase in your alchemical process that is symbolizing growth. Now, when you're in the Negrito phase, division takes place. That's when you're all dark and you're only demons, and you don't want to see any, you don't want to radiate any light astral energy. I mean, your magic is going to work from either the spirits are either going to take your life form, or you're going to radiate light astral energy, or black light. Whatever the spirits are going to feed on one of the three. Most people that don't know how to generate astral or dark black light, they're going to be fed on. Their life force is going to be fed on. These spirits take something from you. They don't just go to work for you for nothing. But as far as your growth and El Shaddai presenting himself to you, don't close yourself off from that. It's all power and it's all holy, sacred knowledge.
So here
Yeah.
is what I think regarding that. Now, technically, you and I seem to have a contradictory account. I claim that El Shaddai is not an entity, it's named to manipulate the source energy. And you claim it's kind of an entity, but I think we are somewhere in the middle of the same thing. So technically, El Shaddai was originally the name of power used to manipulate the source energy. But over time, as people constantly have a need to suck some dick, right? They created El Shaddai, which is like an entity on a chariot, and he has some wings and shit. So, in my opinion, now this is only my fucking opinion. You don't have to agree. But in my opinion, what you and I and everybody else needs to do, if one of those names comes as a spirit, is you need to call that thing and you need to deconstruct the idol, what it means. You kind of need to smash the deific mask and to see the energy which is behind the mask and then wield it as that being, right? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't bow, you don't serve the deific mask. You demolish the mask so you have understanding of what is, you know, behind it. And that's what I am like trying to do, trying to use the energies of those names from the left-handed side to call demons. And it's actually Lilith who taught me that, out of all spirits, which is pretty interesting and pretty revealing. But kind of, can you tell us, somebody like wanted to conjure demons, what would be your advice? No?
My advice, my
Go ahead.
advice would be the old KISS idea. Keep it simple, stupid. You don't need $1,000 altar. You don't need 6 foot fucking statues. You know, all you need is you. You know, someplace that resonates with you, something that resonates with you, something that they've somehow or another led you to, or even somebody associated with them. You know, it could be as simple as sitting in a field, call to them. They're right there. I mean, it's like people, you know, like you were saying about with El Shaddai as a mask. You know, when El Shaddai came to me, it was during a ritual when I was banishing the kingdom because I thought that that's what was needed, you know, and it was. But it was funny because in the invocation that I used, part of it goes El Shaddai, Elohim, Adonai. I serve thee henceforth no longer. And it was funny because he showed up, or a figure of him showed up, and he kind of smirked, a little side crooked laugh, and he goes, "Good, it's about time." And I stopped because that's not what I was expecting. I was like, "Wait, what do you mean? That's what you know? What do you mean it's about time? I'm telling you that I'm not in any direction following you. I don't want anything to do with you." And he just kind of laughed. And he was there. It was literally like he was standing there, like it might as well have been another person, you know, full physical manifestation of him staring down at me. And he goes, "Many have called me God over a long time." And he goes, "We're all God. Everything is God. You're God. I'm God. Everything around you." He goes, "The breath of life that was breathed into you wasn't just breath, it was also part. And that part is within all of us, all of you, all of me." And I was like, "If we're God, then why do you take the title?" He goes, "I don't take the title. It was just given to me. I don't want it. I don't want your submission. I don't want your slavery. I don't want your things done in my name." And then he paused and he looks and he goes, "I'll teach you the ways of God, son." And I paused, like I froze, because that's not what I was expecting at all, you know. And since then, you know, I've made strides, I believe, in my personal path of going. I can go and sit at a church, you know, in the town that I used to live in. There's a thing called a prayer garden. I love that place. It sits right next to a church. I can sit there, and El Shaddai is right there. The minute I sit down, I can feel him show up. And as you were saying, the source energy, I've seen the source before, so I get exactly what you mean by it. It communicates in imageries. I asked it about the meaning of life when I seen it, and it just merely showed me a butterfly. Cryptic as all fuck, but it made sense. What is a butterfly? It's free. That's the meaning of life: to live, to be free, live as you see fit, live for yourself, live for anything that is important to you. If that's other people, if that's money, if that's the world, if that's whatever you care about, live for it. But don't forget to live for yourself in the process.
Talk a little bit about with
Oh, working with Belial. Oh man, that's been a thing that I thought was most concentrated into my path working with him, semi recently in the past few years, but it started long before that. I just didn't know it. But since concentrating on it, it's been, to use the pun, it's been a hell of a ride. I've been lifted to the point of literal physical invincibility. I talked about it once in a podcast where I was shaving and took a chunk of skin out of my face and it didn't even bleed. I'm looking at the razor with the chunk of skin and it's all right here and there's no blood, and he's just laughing, saying, "You can't be harmed," And from that height, very recently, I was taken to the depths that I haven't been to since I took my own life. And I was close to that point again. I was just mere inches from it, actually, because everything I've ever sought for the almost 30 years of my life, I'm older than 30, but I've sought it since I was 5. I got a taste of it and some things happened and it was taken away from me. And I feel like that's still part of the path working. Belial's still there. I get a feeling that he had a hand in that. And it's taken me to the point where I was literally reduced to nothing. Like I didn't even want to live anymore. I didn't even want to be. Thinking back on it, I mean, my feelings on it now are still, I would rather be in the void, in that loneliness and that coldness, than to be stuck here with that feeling of loss, of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so much. I mean, I don't mind talking about it, but I don't like to, because the pain is still there. I'm still trying to get it back. The person that means more than the world to me. I don't know if they'll see this. If they do, or I don't know how they're going to react.
So I sense that you've experienced great loss. I'm sorry for your loss, and that's going to segue into my next question for you. Where do you stand on the binding of spirits, whether that be other people or non-localized spirits?
You can't bind what you don't have the key to. You can attach them. I attach them to many things. I mean, all of this tattoo on my face, necklace. I mean, everything on me has a spirit bound, attached to it. But binding them to it, no. They can come and go as they please, as they will. I think some people confuse the term binding. I know you're not, you understand it as we've talked about, but some people think that binding means like tying them to it. No, you're merely just opening a door to them. The old trap them in the triangle of manifestation, with tetragrammaton around it. It's not going to do shit. They can cross that and smack the ever living shit out of you if they want. Binding them to jewelry, to the brass vessel like Solomon, no, it's not how it works.
Well, an oath is a binding contract between you and another entity, whether you
No.
an oath with another human being or with a spirit. The contract is they are there when you need them, and vice versa. You're there when they need you. So
I can agree on that. That makes sense.
binding
You know,
oath.
look, yeah, a binding oath I can see, like that's it's binding, but to the point is, you know, what, where does it begin? Where does it end? You know what I mean?
It's on the specifics that you make up during the
Yeah,
initial contract that's agreed upon between you and the other party.
yeah. I mean, you know, I made a binding pact with someone, you know, that person I was talking about earlier. I made a very binding pact with them, and you know, I still feel it. To me, I would black out the sun if that's what it took for them, you know. And same thing with, you know, Belial, with any of the others, with Lucifer, any of the ones that I've, you know, made accords with. You know, I'm always available, and so are they. You know, I mean, I right now I could sit here and call on any one of them. They'd show up. May not see it. They'd be here. I could feel it. I could hear them. I could see them. You know, people sitting not too far from me probably wouldn't even see it, but I would. You know, and that's what matters. Is it's like a Skype call. You know, just because others can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
If I could give the audience some sage advice, always uphold your oaths. Anything you say out of your mouth, make sure you do it. Um, if you're not responsible enough to uphold your oaths and your word, then you're worthless. And there are spirits that you can go to if you've been cheated. If someone has made an oath with you and they haven't kept up their end, there are spirits that you can go to that if they see that the oath should be upheld, there will be penalties for the other person not upholding their oath. One of those spirits is Cain's wife, Kalmana. You can go to her if an oath has been breached. But yeah, if I audience always uphold spirit people, you'll be fine if you do that.
Uh, I don't hear you, dude. You turned off the microphone. Hey.
Yeah, I'm here.
There we go. No, it was me. I bumped it. But one thing I've had with you know, clients and consultations and stuff with people is they come to me and ask about, you know, why they've lost this friend or this thing, you know, this important connection to someone. And you know, one of the things I like to tell them is it's the right people kind of thing. There's a, it's a whole course, I guess you can call it. Sometimes people aren't right for us for a season. You know, so we're at different levels of growth. That may be what I'm encountering right now in my own personal, you know, loss, is different levels of growth. Maybe that person has some things, you know, they've said that they, you know, that they're working on themselves, and you know, I'm glad to see it. And it hurts terribly to not be there with them. But at this point, I want them to work that out, integrate that shadow, that piece, you know, the piece that I drew out of them, not even trying. It's just something I do with people. I mean, you guys hang around me long enough, and one of you guys are probably gonna not like me for a time. And that's okay. It happens. I mean, it'll happen to me in the same respect. You know, something we might say just out of our heads, you know, just something in our brain. We say it and it doesn't resonate. And, you know, that's fine. It happens.
Well, it
But
depends how much you value the other person as a friend. Say something
yeah.
about give you, like whatever, you were having a bad day. So you were talking about working with Shemyaza. Do you see any difference the 200 fallen angels of the Watchers and the 72 thwarting angels of the Shemem Farash?
With the 72, I actually there's an author that sent me his book, and I took a read over it. Max Avery, really damn good book he's got. I poured through that, and I kept meaning to, you know, do a review, but life gets in the way. But yeah, there's some similarities. Definitely a similar. There's a similar essence there. Shemyaza is quite an enigma. You can tell he's caught somewhere between primordial and refinement, but just a sliver of whatever the fuck that is that just makes him so unique, even amongst the Infernals. You know, much like Lucifer. I really see it as Lucifer is the essence of light, whereas Shemyaza is the essence of primordial dark. You know, um, the similarities for the Watchers and the 72. How to word it? I would call it harmonious, but there's a few notes in that symphony that just need to be keyed out. You know,
So,
you have to really hash it out. You have to figure out where they fit into it, because where they're sitting, it's just disharmonious. So
so
it's like you have to pull them and put them into the place to find that perfect symphony of it.
Good explanation. Good
yeah,
explanation.
I like give a short note there. So
Mm-hmm.
Watchers seem to be pretty similar, just like you said, pretty similar to the 72 of the Shem Furash. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a one chaotic element to the Watchers and to the Samael as well, which makes him and them partially disharmonious to work with the 72. So if anybody wants to call Shemyaza, magical chants I use to call him is Shemyaza Telenikiati. What Shemyaza can do is he can give you the name of your own divine spark. So he can give you the word of power, which can activate your divine spark. And I actually completely forgot that I received that. Thank you for reminding me. By the way, I will make a crazy experimentation with that. So the thing with Shemyaza is that so here is the thing with him. He's one of those motherfuckers. You kind of summoned him, you ask him a question, and then he sits there, you know? He doesn't reply. And he will reply only when he thinks you are ready. He will reply to that
Yep.
question. So
Yep.
technically, I had the really similar experience with Azazel too. And tonight, actually, I received information why they behave in this manner. So, you know, there are two sides to the source, light and the void, and then something beyond them. Uh,
Yep.
so, in the beginning of their creation, watchers served the source, the light side of the source. Now, I am not talking about Christian concept of
No.
anthropomorphic masturbator on chariot. I am talking about actual light side of the source. And then Azazel and the company, that's how I call the guys, they gave a bunch of knowledge to us, but here is the thing. We fucked up so severely as humanity that they were actually sent to the left side of the source, aka to the void. So they are not working against the source, they are simply working for different aspect of the source now. But here is the thing. Because the trauma Azazel suffered with the company was so severe and the pain they came through was so severe, they will actually openly tell you if you are using something you shouldn't be using. Uh, and that's kind of thing with them. They are pretty secretive about their knowledge. Uh, and actually, Shemyaza knows much more than he says, and I figured it now. So technically, there are two ways to kind of get the knowledge of the Watchers. One is to kind of use the words of power to get the knowledge of them, and another is to do something they require of you to get the knowledge. I prefer the quicker and riskier route, you know my ass, guys. But many of the people who work with the Watchers do not even comprehend how powerful they are, and that's
Oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, definitely. Shimyaza, I mean, for me, when I started my work with him, when I finally figured out, because they kept, other infernals and other spirits kept telling me, I was asking, who is Satan, who is the devil, that early, not understanding. And they kept guiding me towards, the one. And they said, find the one you seek. And I finally come across Shimyaza. And at that time, there wasn't pages and volumes, written about him. At least not easily accessible. I mean, maybe in like the Vatican or something, but nobody with public access gets that. So I finally come across just that one little bit, and I was like, okay. So I just kind of went with a formula that I knew would work, or at least was pretty certain. And I called him the first night, and he just showed up off in the distance, manifested off in the distance of the room, just shrouded, and didn't say nothing, didn't react, just stood there. And I spent a lot of time trying to get him to come forth. Nothing. Tried it again, second night. Came a little closer, just again shrouded in like a massive black cloud. I couldn't even see anything but just eyes. And then the third night, the second night, I'm like, oh my God, I'm fucking spent. What is this not working? I'm thinking it's something wrong, but it was just him seeing, are you going to keep trying? Or are you going to give up? Because if you're going to give up, fuck it, I'm out of here. You're not worth the time. Third night, I did it again. And I put more into it. I put everything into it. I had all my energy, all my focus, everything. And that's when he came forth. And as he stepped where I had, my circle, he stepped forward, and the darkness, unwrapped from him.
Right.
And he looked at me, and he goes, "Are you ready to know the darkness?" And I said, "Yes." And holy shit, that was my first time with shadow working. That was where I really learned the depth of my own and the extent of other people's. That was, I began to know the darkness at that point and really embodied it. I think that, honestly, I think if I really attribute it, if somebody asked where did Order of Defiant Darkness start, I would say 2008 with Shemyaza, because that's where I learned the darkness.
Yeah, Semiel's the same way. If you're like drunk or high or just not serious whatsoever, he's not coming whatsoever. So go ahead, Demetrius.
Can I give a short note? Like, that was exactly my experience with Shemyaza. Like, he literally approached me in the same way. So I call him motherfucker, and I perform a ritual, and he was like, "No, fucker, this is not for you right now." And then I perform a ritual again later, year and a half later, and then he gives me a few pieces of notice, and then he was, "No, fucker." And yeah, just like you described, you summon him, he maybe gives you something or doesn't give you anything, and then you reach the no fucker, and he will openly tell you, "No fucker," So I kind of need to say that just for those few sentences you pronounced and you admitted that you got no fucker from the entity, I am sure that you are legit, because majority of occult practitioners, when they get no fucker, they are silent about it. If you ever ask them, did they fuck up in their life or did they fuck up in a ritual, they will always say, "Never. I was always a god. Since I was a little baby when I was pissing for the first time, I was aware of my own godhood, and I never failed ever." And that's like a really bad approach, because our audience will learn more from our failures than our successes, right? So we should really allow people to learn from our mistakes. I mean, Joseph is definitely aware of some of my fuckers and fuck ups, aren't you?
I've had failed operations for sure.
Yep.
Something happens, it's not whatever. I'll have everything set up, my triangle, my circle, and it'll start fucking pouring raining, like the operation failure. Sometimes there's been operations where I was inspired to call a demon and an angel, and one or the other won't show the fuck up, or neither of them will show up because of my intentions. So not every operation is going to be a success, and you have to use them all as learning experiences. So Elric has informed me that he has other responsibilities he has to take care of. So it's been an honor having you on, brother. You got to come back on. We appreciate you coming on, man.
So
Oh,
can we
definitely,
have a
man.
part two soon? Like, because like I really need to talk to you more. Like, can we have a part two soon? Because like
Oh yeah,
we're
definitely.
And we'll have private conversations too, because I wanted to set something up with Elric and you privately anyway. So, Elric, can you tell the audience where they can get a hold of you?
Oh, you've got the website, orderofdefiantdarkness.com. That's a good way to get a hold of me if you want to book a service. It used to be a wide open schedule. Now I'm by appointment only, so you'll have to get in touch with me before booking anything. You can find us on Facebook, Order of Defiant Darkness, Instagram, Order of Defiant Darkness, YouTube. We've got the YouTube channel by the same name. Um, Privately, I'm pretty reserved about that for now, due to some past issues with people.
Understood.
And yeah, so but you know, if somebody really wants to get in touch with me privately, they can do so. I won't refuse them, but it's going to be one of the things of, you know, I have to know what you're about. So you'll have to put that out there first. You know, if you're eager to learn, I'm eager to teach. You know, if you've got something that you want to share with me, you know, Joseph, you mentioned my name was thrown to you before we even knew each other, you know.
By a spirit,
So,
not by
yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly. So like if a spirit tells you to get a hold of me, do so, because that's, you know, important. I won't treat it as any less important. Everybody that comes to me, you know, I go to them in perfect love and perfect trust, you know. So it's like if your intentions are pure and you want to contact me privately, I'm not hard to find. Just contact the page, you know, drop some info. I'll get in touch with you.
Awesome. This was a good. All right, guys. I will speak to you both later. Adios.
All right.
Thanks, Elric.
Stay
Demetrius,
defiant, everybody.
later.
Yeah, yeah. So bye guys, this is the end of the part one. We definitely need to have part two. Like I will like fuck myself so that we have part two. We need to have this, you know. Bye. Let's stop this recording, guys. Oh, yeah.
Later.